All right, here's a little demo about how you might approach this project. So the first thing I might do here is I would start with a bunch of artboards. A lot of times it's just easier to have a bunch of artboards in place, and that way you can copy and paste and move things around easily without mucking about. We covered artboards in the last project, so that should not be a surprise. So let's go ahead and take a look at our message. Okay, so basically what we've done here is we've taken the text, broken it up into the various pieces of information, right? So essentially what I did was here, the title's obviously one block of information, one island. The film festival concept is another island. The name is another island. The body text is another one. The week four, thinking about this as a series of film weeks, that could be important, right? And then, of course, we've got the information about the time of admission and so on, and the location. So you can obviously break this down further, but I'm just, for this demo, I'm trying to keep it sort of basic. Once you got it broken down, once you have it broken down into the islands that you want to use, you simply copy the whole thing and then you paste it into another artboard, and then you paste it into all 5 artboards. So you have essentially your islands broken up. Once you got that, then you go through and you decide what is going to be your hierarchy, right? And so what I've done here is, this one's actually kind of done, but I wanted to just go through and kind of say, all right, here's my 3 sizes. I got my hook, which is at at 36 point. I got this batch of information here, which is mostly at 14, and then I got a little one here, which is at 10, which is also the size of my body type. Okay, so then I've got 10 point down here and 10 point there. I've got 14, 14, and 24. Okay, so those are my, oops, bad Jeff, I got 4 sizes. Okay, even if I had 4 and I said 3, you know, as I said, there's times where you can bend the rules a little bit if it works. So in a case like this, if this were down to 14, it might not work, right? It just might not, I might not have enough to make it work. So if I'm at 14, or I could also be at 36. So if I was at 36, that might then start fighting with the thing that I want to be the hook, right? So I'm making an artistic call, and I'm not trying to be bold or radical about it, but I'm just like, okay, I need one more size in there, and it just works. And so when I say 3 sizes, 3 weights, and so on, those are guidelines. They're to kind of keep you under control, because if I didn't say that, I'd have 15 sizes and I'd have 20 different weights, and I mean, it would be a complete train wreck. So this is what I mean when I'm talking about having guidelines. Okay, they're not carved in stone, but if I see things going down, going towards a wreck, then I'm going to say, hey, go back to the specs, right? So this is the hierarchy that I decided for this one. Now, what I would do in any given situation is I would decide what is going to be my hook. So then I said, okay, I'm going to take a pull quote out. That's going to be my hook. Then I'm going to pull out the name. That's pretty obvious. That's going to be my hook. And then I'm going to play around with the idea of it being a sequence, a series, a film series, right? Or a festival. And week 4 is what I want to emphasize in this one, because, hey, if you were going through, walking past the same store every week, and then bingo, week 3, week 4, and so on, you'd say, oh, wow, I better catch up on this because I'm already in week 4 and it's a 1 month. I might want to catch that, right? So what I've done there is I've decided that, those are going to be my 4 hooks. Now, even in a situation here, I've got, something that is clearly the hook because it's at the top and it's the most bold, but I've got something also at 33 point. This is at 36. This is at 33 only because I needed it to fit. And I also tightened up the tracking a lot so that it was a little, tighter. Normally it should have been 36, right? I'm off by 3 points. But again, here I was making a little bit of a wiggle because I needed it to fit, but I wanted it to be that size. And then I've got this size here, which is 18, and then I got this size, which is 10. So again, I've sort of split this up here. So this one here is 18. That's 12, probably should be 10 if I wanted to technically be correct about that, because the word featuring, it's not an important word anyways. And then I'm back to 18, right? So I got 18, 18, and then I got 18. But notice that because of my weights, I can play around with different hierarchy just by the weight alone. As well, I can make something important just by putting it into a place with negative space. Okay, quick tip here is that if you are in the text tool and you want to move or do something, hit escape and then hit your V key, and then you're immediately back into your edit mode. Okay, so if you're here in your text tool, then you got to go click out, you got to go click on that, and then you got to blah blah blah, right? So this is a really quick way of doing it. You're in your text tool, hit escape, hit V, and now you're able to move things around. Okay, so there's a lot of ways that you can make things important, not just by weight and or size, right? So those are my, essentially, those were the four hierarchy, the four hooks that I had chosen. Okay, so and again, sort of playing around with the different hierarchy in terms of the other things that are important or less important or so on. So this is the one that I decided was going to be. I was going to push this one the furthest. And so here you can see I've taken a little bit of, weight and style to kind of pull some of the important words in the body type, make them a little bit more dominant so that they kind of stand out a little bit. Here, for example, I decided week 4 was going to be something kind of important. So even though it's not big, it has a position of prominence because of the amount of negative space around it. So that's a way of thinking about making something a little more important, even if it's, you're not making it big and bold, right? Then I play around with alignments, right? Notice I've got a nice solid left alignment here. I'm playing around with the right alignment right up in here. Got a left alignment over there. Notice I've also played around with the hierarchy within the short films, right? By the and of our time, not that important. Short films, best filmmakers, trying to make it scannable, right? So now suddenly I've got a little bit of a punch there. So after dinking around with all these different, elements, what you might then do is say, well, I've got this cool hierarchy and now I need to make it an angle. So what I did here was, let me just choose along here. So what I did was I just grabbed everything from this composition and I plugged it down into here, and then I didn't change the hierarchy at all. All I did was play around with the layout. And so a quick, easy way of going from point A to point B. Now, when I say use a different director, not a big deal. If you're, the reason I'm asking you to use different directors is because the body text often has opportunities for pull quotes, or for playing around with the body text or doing something fun in there, because each one has something different to say. Not the end of the world if you don't, if you use Rodriguez, say, for example, all the way through series 1 and series 2, I'm not going to hang you for it. I might say, hey, you should have used a different director. But if it works, if the design is good, then that's fine. Otherwise, you can just simply go change that name, change the week, and guess what? You're golden. And change the body text. And then bingo, you're golden, right? So it's, easy ways of doing things. And so where else do I want to go with that? And so once you've got the hierarchy, then you don't need to play around any further with that. All you're doing now is moving things around. For example, my body text, I might want to make it do something different, right? So I can do stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's kind of cool. Maybe if I did something like this and then just pulled this down here and made it really tight. And then maybe if I went into my paragraph and maybe I justified it. And suddenly, that changes things a little bit, right? I haven't changed the hierarchy, but I'm playing around with the layout a little, right? So you can play around with those kinds of things quickly and easily. They make big differences in the way the design looks. Maybe it's an improvement, maybe it's not. But the point is that you're playing around with variables and you're, exploring what happens, right? And so, for example, noticing I've been playing around with different columns. I notice a lot of people are kind of just holding into one column with. You don't need to do that. You can even break things up into multiple columns if you wanted to. You could, make it really wide. You could make it really long and narrow. Here's something else. Notice that if I have this little plus sign right here, right? So let me just zoom in on that for a moment. Okay, so if I've got a text box and I can see this I can click. Notice I can have another box now and I can click and it will then link the text. So now no matter what I do with these boxes, notice how it wraps differently, okay? And then this of course has another one. So if I wanted to make that bigger, I could do that. Or if I wanted to do this, I could grab that and click this and make a third box. Okay, so, and then they're all linked up together. It's kind of cool, right? Watch how this all flows, right? So it's just showing you where these things go. So if you wanted to play around with text boxes, that's a quick and easy way of doing it. And so it's just one other cool little trick that you might think about when you're playing with your variables. Okay, so that's a quick, easy tutorial on some of the things you might think about. All right, so have fun.